Hey everyone, and welcome. We're going to jump right into a really fascinating and maybe kind of uncomfortable idea today. What if being 100% rational was actually bad for your mental health?
I mean, we've all heard it a million times, right? Be rational. See the world exactly as it is. No filters, no emotion. You gotta face the unvarnished truth because that's what smart, stable people do.
But what if that's just plain bad advice? What if that relentless search for pure clarity isn't the secret to a healthy mind at all? What if it's actually a threat to it? That's the huge tension we're going to unpack today.
Okay, so to really get into that, first we have to talk about the ideal we're all supposed to be aiming for. Let's call it the gospel of rationality.
And you can see the appeal, right? The promise is that if you can just be purely rational, you get all this great stuff, super clear thinking, decisions based only on evidence, a worldview with zero bias. It's pretty much sold to us as the absolute pinnacle of mental fitness.
But here's the thing. That ideal comes with a hidden cost, a pretty significant one. Because when you strip away everything that isn't a cold, hard fact, well, you might be throwing out a lot more than you think.
And there's the kicker. This kind of rational clarity, it's not just a passive observer, it's an active force. It goes looking for the stories we tell ourselves, the comforting narratives that help us get through life, and it just takes them apart piece by piece.
So when those stories are gone, it's not like we're just left with a clear picture of reality. We're left with a void. For instance, what about the story that hard work always pays off? If pure rationality shows you that, statistically, that's just not true for a lot of people, what's left? That empty space can start to destabilize the very things that help us function every day.
And we're not talking about small things here. We're talking about the absolute pillars of a functional life. Your motivation to even get out of bed in the morning, your ability to form real attachments to other people, your power to regulate your own emotions. All of this can start to crumble when those necessary stories get stripped away.
This chart really lays out the conflict perfectly. On one side, you have pure rationality, which basically acts like an engine for taking things apart. And on the other, you have what we're calling functional sanity, which seems to need those very things, those narratives and softened truths, just to keep the lights on.
So that begs a pretty big question. If our sanity isn't built on a foundation of hard facts, then what in the world is it built on? Well, that brings us to this idea of necessary fictions.
I mean, think about it. What really makes your life feel like it's worth living? It's probably things like a sense of meaning, a stable sense of who you are, a feeling of hope for the future. You can't just pull those things from a spreadsheet of raw data. They have to be built.
And the building blocks for all of that stuff are what our source material calls softened truths. These are the narratives that help filter reality and make it more manageable. Now, they aren't necessarily lies. They're just a version of the truth that's tweaked to prioritize meaning and hope over cold statistical probability.
And this all leads to a really powerful, maybe even radical idea: selective blindness. This is the theory that a huge part of being sane is the ability to not see everything, to have a kind of mental filter that shields us from the crushing weight of every single harsh reality out there.
Let's just let that one sink in for a second. Sanity depends partly on selective blindness. It suggests that having a perfectly clear, unfiltered lens on the world might actually be incompatible with having a healthy mind. That to stay sane, we have to, on some deep level, choose what we see.
So the really crucial point here is this: sanity isn't some giant fortress built out of indestructible facts. It's actually something way more delicate. It's a fragile architecture, one that needs constant, careful maintenance.
Ultimately, this isn't about choosing to live in a delusion. It's not a simple coin toss between truth and comfort. The real work, the real challenge, is to build a mental framework that's strong enough and flexible enough to hold both, to be able to look at harsh realities while also protecting the stories that give us our meaning, our identity, and our hope.
So we want to leave you with this question to chew on, and there's no judgment here, it's just something to acknowledge for yourself. What are these softened truths, the essential, comforting stories that hold your world together? And how do you manage that delicate balance of holding on to them while still seeing the world as it truly is?